Hello, everyone, and welcome to Ground Up with me, Natalee. I have been pursuing a career in acting for over a decade and have learned a lot. I built my career from the ground up, and I'm simply curious as to how other people did it too. I'm going to be gaining insights into how some of the most inspiring people got to where they are today. I'll interview entrepreneurs, actors, thought leaders, health experts, and many more. So if you're curious like me and gain motivation through inspiration, then this podcast is definitely for you. Welcome to season 2 of Ground Up with Natalee. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another episode. I am so excited for today's guest. We have the incredible comedian Joe Gatto on, and I talk about his entire ground up journey for Impractical Jokers, and we talk about his new stand-up comedy special, Messing with People, which is on YouTube right now. If you're listening to this, it is already out, and we talk about his tour coming up. But ultimately, what I found out about Joe is that he is just the most genuine, down-to-earth, cool dude who gave me personally so much advice in this episode, and I feel like anyone listening to it is just going to feel inspired when they're done listening to it. So definitely sit down and give it a listen. Get out your notepad, as always, take notes, or go on a nice walk and enjoy it. Welcome to the podcast, Joe.
Thank you for having me.
We start every episode with the Ground Up 3.
Oh, this sounds great.
Where are you from? Okay. Joe, thank you so much for being here.
Yes, thank you.
Yes. Okay, so we start every episode with the Ground Up 3. So I would love to know, if it's not obvious to everyone in the world, where are you from, Joe?
This is my New York show, and I put a polo on. I tried to break it down. I am from Staten Island, New York originally. Now I live on Long Island, New York.
Okay, how far is that from each other?
45 minutes, depending on traffic.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
So it's
it's not
you
bad.
moved out a little bit?
I moved out.
Yeah,
I moved out.
You've dabbled in other areas.
Yeah.
What was your first dream job?
Dream job meaning the dream that I wanted to attain?
Yes,
or
you're
my
6
job?
years old. You're like, I want to be a chemist.
Architect.
Okay.
Love me some Legos, really geeky, nerdy, good with math. I wanted to be an architect for a while.
That's fun. And how long did that last?
Till I was 7.
6 to 7.
Huge. No, I wanted to do that for a while, but then when it came time to decide what you want to do with your life, I was good at math and numbers. My dad was a businessman, and he knew that I wanted to work in some sort of like cool companies. And he said every company. He goes, name me a company. I was like Disney, blah, blah, blah. I said, I don't know if I want to work there. He goes, all of them have accountants. Be an accountant.
Okay.
So I have an accounting degree.
Oh,
which is so weird, right? Because I don't even balance my own checkbook. But so I got my accounting degree coming in out of school. And as soon as I graduated, I knew I didn't want to do it.
You're like, I want to do comedy and
so.
make way more money.
Well, yeah.
No.
Yeah. Should have stuck
Your
with
dad's
accounting.
like, wow, son.
Good job. Nice choice, pal.
Yeah.
I'm glad he didn't see that because he was. But it was interesting because I always did comedy on the side as a hobby all throughout.
High school?
High school, college, career. I had 6 jobs before I started with this. Yeah, I was working. It was always the 5 to 9.
What was your first job, like when you were 16?
When I was little?
Yeah, like you're
16 or
like,
14 off the books?
Do both. So 14 off the books, right?
Scooping ices for a guy named Tony at the Big Apple Bazaar with his card out front, $2 cash.
Scooping ices?
Ices.
Oh, scooping ice cream.
Ices, yeah, ices. Staten Island ices. A little car out front, $2. And that job ended tragically when one day they locked the door on a guy and told me to go home. True story.
Oh, no, poor thing.
Yeah.
So that was like the Staten Island lemonade stand.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, exactly. It was called, the place was called the Big Apple Bazaar, which is basically just like a collection of, kind of like a strip mall, but indoor. So all of like individual rails, you know. And there was this ice cream shop that was there. And this guy, Tony, my dad said, because just my son worked here.
Entrepreneurial.
Yeah, that's it. So I did that. And then my first job was a stock boy at Party City. It's a party supply store.
Yeah, we have them here.
Oh, yeah. So I had a very illustrious career for 4 years at Party City.
4 years?
Yeah, it was Party City and ended up.
Wait, but it all goes together, like Party City, Impractical Jokers.
It's the
one
party.
and the same.
I acquired some skills to do it.
Yeah. I was a bagger at Albertsons for a couple years.
You working on the tips? You getting some cash?
No,
on the side?
we weren't allowed to accept them.
Oh, whose role was
Bob,
that?
the manager.
Okay, so Bob, the manager, has got some set because Bob's not here. Where's the camera? Bob, you're not out here bagging. Okay, we're out here doing it.
And
getting
doing
paper
the carts in the parking lot.
You're collecting carts?
Yes.
I always tip the baggers.
Did you really?
Always.
Interesting.
Always. My mom used to be like, get them $1, you know, all the time. And then all the time, I always tip the baggers.
I don't know. Maybe that's literally, I think it was a law, like a California thing.
Oh, we just couldn't do it?
Or
I think
it was Bob.
I think Bob was just taking the money on the side. He's like, I'll give it to them.
Yeah. Give it here.
Yeah.
No, it was mostly when I did the carts. If I helped someone to their car is when I would get a tip. Well, yeah, because
you're outside. You're public domain.
Exactly. Yeah. Right.
Outside the walls.
But I would get offered, and I would be like, "No, I was such a good girl."
Really?
Yeah, I would be like, "Oh, thank you. I can't accept." I mean, mind you, it was like, you know, it was rare because it would have to be an older lady that needed help to her car.
Yeah.
So it would be rare that it would have to begin with, and then for them to tip me was rare anyway. So it's like I would just decline.
I get that a lot now when, you know, companies send you cars to like an event or something, and the drivers aren't allowed to accept gratuity. I'll always drop money in the back seat, and I'd like try to give it to them. They say, "Oh, I'm not allowed to." And when I get out to open the door, I'll just drop.
Wait,
it in
are you
the
talking
car.
about like BLS?
Yeah, like that kind of stuff.
Wait, I've given them, and they
don't tell them out here. Don't out them here. They're gonna get in trouble. Bob's watching.
Oh my God, no, they really do. They accept it.
Well, it depends on the company. Some companies are like, we can't accept a gratuity. So I've gotten that from drivers. So I'll leave the money in the back seat, and I'll leave, say goodbye, and as I'm walking around, I'll be like, oh, I think I might have forgot something in the back.
Yeah.
And I'll leave,
run, and then they're like, oh, that's sweet. Okay, I'm gonna do that next time if someone.
I don't
declines.
agree with people being able to say you can't take a tip. That means you're doing a job well done. That's like a 5-star review.
Yeah. What is up with that?
Yeah, I don't like.
What does that mean? It's one thing of like we're not gonna write on. You know, our policy is that we're not gonna write on the car that says
don't
ask.
Tips. Yeah, don't ask. Don't have the thing when you flip and say tip them out. Like if you do that, that's
fine. But if someone literally was like, "Hey, thank you for your service," and get it to you, what the hell? Okay, Joe, I'm curious. I want to know what you were like as a kid.
Oh, I was not this what you see before you. I was very quiet, very geeky, super. I used to creative write. I used to do that was my first foray into entertainment. I used to write stories.
Okay.
And I would really enjoy. I was like all about fantasy. I was like, I loved like I didn't play Dungeons and Dragons stuff, but I loved like those kind of tales. When I was 12 years old, I saw the movie Willow, which is basically like a Lord of the Rings before Lord of the Rings had elves and stuff, and it was like this is really cool, and it got me down that path. And I started writing stories in that vein. I really liked it. My mom and dad really liked that I was writing, so they pushed me to do it. So I did it more and more, which was cool. And I started writing short stories, and I was definitely had really not many friends. And my dad, I grew up in a neighborhood that was not the best neighborhood. I went to a school in a really good neighborhood. So the boys, I met them in school freshman year of high school. But like 7th, 8th grade, I had my neighborhood friends, and it wasn't the best clique coming into that age, boys that age, you know, making bad decisions, living kind of on the wrong side of town a little bit. And it was Staten Island, you know, but the wrong side of Staten Island. But there was like, so I was kind of trying to make my own way. And I remember specifically, I was in my room by myself, and I was just sitting there feeling down. And my father gave me a talk. And he had come home and he had gotten, I don't know, you're way younger than me, but there was this whole thing of inspirational posters where like there was a cat and it said like, hang on, and it was hanging off the tree, or there was just like an oak tree and it said strength, be there, blah, blah, blah. Like it was like that kind of thing.
And it was kind of fairy tale like?
Yeah, some of them. Yeah, so it was like a nice photo, and in big bold letters it would say like strength. It's like have strong roots to carry you through the storm, like some bullshit, right?
That was good.
Yeah, it was not bad. I just made that up. So make a poster. So my father came home and hung on my wall for me. It was 3 fighter jets together, and it said attitude, winners surround themselves with winners. And my father just said, you just don't have any winners right now. Don't worry, you'll find some. Aww. So that was like my kind of thing that got me through. But I was definitely like, I used to like write. I used to play video games. I was pretty much a loner. I was
in your room a lot.
In my room a lot. I was in with my family.
Yeah.
Like I had cousins and stuff, you know.
Right,
so
right.
That's where a lot of my social stuff came from.
Which is fun. Like I had that too.
Yeah.
Big family,
big
and
family.
you have like, you know, holiday parties. You're excited to hang with the cousins.
Yeah. I'm one of 15. I'm the youngest of 15 cousins.
Wow.
And then the Bridges, and then the Bridges, there's like 22 cousins under me. The next generation, so it was like a huge, and I was the bridge, so I was like kind of the big cousin and the little cousin at the same time.
Yes, we have that too.
Yeah.
So I was gonna say, your parents like accepted you when you like just throughout your creativity and everything in high school, they pushed you to do whatever you wanted to do, or were they like, you need to go to college to get your accounting degree?
A mix of both. Okay. I think they tried to put you on a path. My father died when I was 19, so he tried to instill as much as he could quickly. So I went. He was like kind of like a business guy. He was the vice president of a life insurance company.
Wow, yeah.
So he did like that kind of stuff. So he was very business savvy. He was a super people person, like huge. Him and my mother both were. So like, but he was like a very much one of those people where nobody had a bad word to say about him. But people say that about people, but it's like true there, you know?
Yeah.
So he was like that kind of guy. it's actually funny. I get into all this in my new tour. I called Let's Get Into It because I got obsessed being a father now. Like you see how your kids and how people evolve.
Yeah.
And I was like, how did I become what I am?
Right.
And then you're like, the only story you know every sentence to is your own, right? So it's like I could really break down my journey. And if I think about it, I lay out all these stories of how I was to then moments I could see where like, oh, this is where I got that from. And being a parent, like you're really like, it's all about leaving them with memories and, you know, that's it. So it's a really interesting thing that I've been thinking about a lot. So.
Yeah. Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah.
It's true. When I was watching your special, which was
You're doing great. Go ahead.
what's it called?
Fight through it. Messing with people.
About your son. You said the funniest thing. You're like, he looks to his father for answers, and I'm just like, and as adults, as you get older, you realize your parents were just people.
Yeah.
And you're like,
100%.
fuck. And now you're like, I have to have all the answers. And he's like, Daddy, what does this mean?
Yeah.
And you're like,
And you're just in your own world, like living it through. Yeah.
So you get to choose how you get to like raise them, obviously, and they're gonna have stories of you. Oh, that's so sweet.
Yeah.
Okay. So so tell me about Impractical Jokers. And obviously you had your friends from high school that you met and you started creating this. When did the big idea come of like, okay, we want to turn this into something that we shoot and create? I feel like right now in the industry, it's so hard to, you know, book something as an actor or even as a comedian. There's so much content out there.
Sure.
And now acting teachers are like, create everything on your own and write and direct, and it can be overwhelming. And also like gaining the confidence to even feel like you have an idea to do that. What was your guys' first plan? Was there a plan, or was it like?
It's interesting because I came from that, and then this next chapter of my life, I came going solo. So the first time I really ever was solo was 3.5 years ago, 4 years ago, after I left the show and started my own, my own journey with comedy and entertainment. So having people with you, supporting you, is highly recommended. I love having collaborators. I'm a collaborator by nature. I think people do well with collaboration, but the one rule I think is you have to surround yourself with people as good or better than you. I think that you need people that raise you up, don't slow you down. And that could just be, if you don't know how to edit, get somebody that's good at editing, and partner up or things like that. I think it's really important to do that. We were the definition of doing it on your own. Our sales tape that we sold Jokers with was shot on our iPhones, and then I edited it. And we showed it to the network, and they bought it off the sales tape that we made with our iPhones.
And what year was this?
This is 2010.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it really was just like we just got out there and shot it. We had this idea. And I feel like if we had the idea for the show now, like we'd be like, oh, let's get a production company to put together a sizzle reel and blah, blah, and it's all these extra steps. So I do think there is a little bit of a hustle factor, but as long as you're able to put out a good product.
Right.
The number one thing for me always that drives me, and even with the show or with and we all had the group concept was, is it worth people watching? Is it a good reflection on you? Will you be like, oh, yeah, I did that. So I think that was a big part of it. So even with the show, when we did Jokers, we found out that people were looking for prank shows. What's our version of a prank show? We didn't like making people feel bad. We like messing with our friends. This is how we make each other laugh for real. Could we turn this format into something? We were able to do it pretty easily. And it was like, okay, we'll just invert it. So it's all about us and making ourselves like, putting your friends through the screws, which everybody does.
Yeah.
And
right. So relatable.
Yeah. It's friendship on display.
Authentic to you guys, 100%. Which is huge.
Yeah. I mean, I would do those things on my own without anybody telling them when we were out to make my friends laugh.
Right.
Like if me and Sal were in an elevator together, he knew I was going to stand in the corner and be like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Well, people got on, just to mess with him. He'd be beat red. I hate taking subways and elevators with me because he knew in a closed space I got him.
So you're like, let's just start filming all of this.
Yeah. So we just started to decide of silly things.
When you got into like episode 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, or even was it episode 1, did you rent out those spaces? Did the people know you were going there to do that?
So when we shot the pilot, the only place we really had a spot was we worked as we were working the checkout. So when we were working the checkout at Costco, which we've never been allowed back into, because I don't think they knew what they were getting. That was the first time we ever did that type of challenge with the earpiece. Like we never really had those, So that was like, that unlocked a really cool place of it. It was like, oh, you're really in public, but you're pretending to be somebody else, which we really didn't do yet. We're always ourselves being a weird person in the bar,
right.
But now we're a person of authority or a person who's supposed to be doing a job, and that unlocked a whole cascade of possibilities. It's like, okay, and then it was like, boom, what would be funny? We're a butcher. We work at a burger joint.
Right, it
You
just
know,
keeps
yeah,
going.
yeah. We're a meter maid. You know, we do all that. Like you just go of all these things where you could put yourself in, and then you think of the fun.
Yeah.
So then the first couple seasons was like, where could we work? And then we found White Castle, and we found all these other places, and then we just started doing that.
And you would reach out to the White
We
Castle.
would.
Yeah, you would.
Yeah, it was basic cable. There was 8 of us.
Wow.
First season, just going. We were producers in there, just like calling up, locking down places, sending letters, sending emails. Yeah.
Hey, we're a show.
Yeah.
This is what we do.
Who are you? Nobody knew it, right?
What were you like? It'll bring people to come to your store.
Yeah.
Okay. That was the main thing. And they had to have a sense of humor in a way,
Most
right?
of the people were that, and then we would you had to find smaller places too. Like, so we worked at a place called Lot Less a lot, which was like just it served the purpose. It's a store.
Yeah.
Supermarkets were easy because there's all these smaller ones you could get in Manhattan. You know, not these big, huge chains.
This is all in New York?
Yes, all in New York. That was in our contract. We wouldn't leave New York. And then, you know, like we weren't doing it at Whole Foods in the beginning.
Yeah,
You know, we were
yeah.
doing it, you know, at Jif Mart or whatever it is, you know.
Did
down
that
on-
make you feel less scared?
No, maybe more because it was
Really?
like, yeah, you were like, you're scared doing it when you just started doing it because you're just starting to do anything.
Yeah.
It's so weird.
Yeah.
You know, you don't know how people are going to react. Quickly, we found out that people are more game for things than you think
Right.
out in public. Like we were pleasantly surprised, and it became the secret sauce of it. It was like people will come along for the ride if you could sell it, and it always made for better TV. If somebody is going to help you lie to your manager because you needed to get off early,
Yeah.
it's so great to see this woman who doesn't know you being like, yeah, you know, that spill, and then like we did this one challenge I still remember, and I couldn't believe it worked. On paper, I'm like, this is never going to work. We're like, let's just try it, and we did this thing where we played custodians in a supermarket. And we had to have people make a mess so we could get something to do because we're about to get fired. So we go up to somebody like, listen, they're going to fire me. They say they don't need me, but I just need somebody to make a mess. And I was like, you just make a scene and dress it. So this woman is holding a jug of milk. And she goes, oh, no, and like breaks it and whatever. And then and I was like, oh, my God, people are it was so funny. So then we all got like, Q got somebody to drop eggs and whatever. It was just really great.
So she drops the milk. You clean. Thank you so much. You're cleaning it up.
Yeah.
And then do you find her after?
Yeah, when she leaves, yeah.
And then what do you
our
say?
producers come out and say,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
we didn't go release people because
Okay.
we had to keep going.
Yeah.
So, you know, what you see on TV is just one turn or two
Right.
turns, but we go 7, 8 times and we just churn it out to try to get the best thing. So we have to keep working. So they would leave what we would call the playing field, which is where all the cameras are.
Yeah.
And one of our producers would go up and be like, hey, you're on it. And they're like, what are you even talking about? Like, I just thought that was a weird guy.
Right.
you know?
Right.
So
Oh my God. You said a quote that I loved. You said, there's a sigh of relief you get to live your life and not be in constant fear. It was like an interview that you had. And it like
it's very smart. You sure I said that?
Yes, you did. It hit me in the gut because
yeah.
I feel like so many of us live our lives in fear. Either constant fear or like an element of it within things that we want to pursue.
Yeah.
Right? Like, what are other people going to think? So I feel like by you doing something for 10 years, like you said, it was probably a muscle that you got like better at, but putting yourself in those situations, that is so scary. And I feel like when you come out of it and you're like, wait, I'm alive. Like I can do anything.
Yeah.
Was that the feeling? Can you expand on that?
Yeah, it was very much like you put yourself in this thing. It's twofold. You're a performer. You want to
Yeah.
get good content. You also are a human. You don't want to make people feel bad. You want to make sure you're doing an okay thing. You want to be kind while you're doing it. You know, there'd be multiple times when we were in something and we would stop production and be like, "This is wrong. People are getting mad. What are we doing wrong? Stop. Start over." And be like, "Well, let's make a tweak. What are we doing here? We shouldn't be doing this. Blah blah blah."
Okay.
Not in a turn, but like in a game overall. So, and then some of our best stuff would come out of that moment. But I think the biggest thing was people are always like, you know, people say fearless a lot. And I said that, you know, that doesn't really exist. It's the way you deal with it. Human have fear,
Right,
but what are you
right.
going to do with it, you know? There is such a celebration, which is addictive when you're able to fight through fear and make something happen.
Yeah.
Right. So there is like such I don't know if there's more moments when you feel more of an accomplished human when you get through something you're scared of or something that made you feel like that. And the outcome is so good where you're making everyone laugh, everybody's hanging out, everybody feels good at the end of it. But you had to go through that. I think that's unreal. So that's the feeling I think you get addicted to. So for me, that big laugh, that big smile, that big joy that you provide by just putting yourself out there a little bit is so worth it.
Yeah. Like when you're on stage and they're telling you in your ear what to say and there's a million, because they don't know yet.
Yeah.
Like those minutes. And there's probably also an element of like, by the end of this, they're going to be told that this was all a joke.
Yeah.
Which is kind of like a safety net in a
100%.
way, right?
Yeah. It is. And then you hope they get it and you hope that they sign and you hope that it makes for good TV. So there's a lot of things going on, but it all just comes back to if you're not doing a good job, like performing or being funny, it all falls apart.
Right.
So
period.
just do that. Get out there and do your job.
Was there ever a time where it was like very uncomfortable? Besides telling people like, "Hey, we have to stop this," they're mad, but like where you were in a bit where like you were so uncomfortable.
I had a couple for me, but there's been more. I was on the producer side a lot, so I would watch a lot from multiple angles where I'd be like, okay, this is happening. This is my friend. I'm performing. And then also being like, oh, is my friend okay? And then also, are we getting what we need? But I will say probably the most uncomfortable thing we've done, I was on the show for over 300 episodes, decade of my life. And I will say, like, there are like 5 or 6 that are up there for me that were like, wow, I can't believe we got through that. One of them was definitely Q. We made Q keep pulling the tram at Universal, the emergency brake at Universal. So they kept stopping the behind the scenes tour, which is supposed to take 45 minutes, ended up taking 2.5 hours. So these are people that went to the park and they're just like going, and he had to keep, and every time he got up and he's just on this tram with people, and there's a woman next to him going, don't do it. Like she's afraid for him. And he's like, I have to. Yeah, like, and it made for such great TV. It's amazing. It's one of the best punches. I think it's probably the best he's ever done. And just being there, I was like, I remember feeling so uncomfortable for my friend. For him. Yeah. And like it was,
2.5 hours.
I'm in a van there. Yeah. It was like almost 2.5 hours. He's just sitting there. And it came together.
What if someone beat him up?
We had things in place to make sure that didn't happen. Okay. And
I get
TV, if people were getting there, we stopped right before that, right? Because we don't want it to get there.
Yeah.
We want it to get right before that, where people are like, what is going on? The frustration and whatnot.
You want to capture that and 100%. Then move on.
Yeah.
How did you guys come up with pranks? What was the pre-production of that like? Are you in a writing room? 6
weeks.
Okay.
Every pre-pro. Just sat down, wrote everything. What could we do? Looked at last season, figure out something that could go. Every season we kind of found something. Yeah. Like there was one thing where it was like, what if you can't laugh? And that unlocked a whole bunch of stuff. We started with that with a 2-way mirror challenge where I'd be talking to you and behind you there's a mirror that is frosted and it opens and only I could see it and something is going on in there. And we would just put on the craziest things in there. So, and I had to keep a straight face and it would just make a laugh count. So once we did that, we came up with a lot. We came up with that. We came up with Cran Just Make Basketball, where it was the weird names we had to say, checking people into a room. And if you laughed, you lost. So that kind of stuff just unlocked and you saw that roll.
Being in the waiting room.
The waiting room stuff. Yeah. That challenge is great. Yeah. But for more so than that, it was like, oh, what is, we would think about how can we make the show better, and it could we show more that's not prank, that's not challenge. So we would hang out in the behind the scenes more. We would show our conversations.
Yeah,
we did those walk and talks for season 2 where we just BS'd. We were given a topic and we just talked about it, and it made it like feel natural. And that's how people got to know our personalities, our point of views. It's basically a podcast almost where we're just talking and showing like little pieces of our personalities, and that's what people even liked, even arguably more.
People love the behind the scenes.
If you look at the first episode and you watch that versus like season 8,
so different.
6 challenges I think in the first one, 5 and a punishment. Last one had 2 challenges and a punishment. I mean, it was a hyper cut, punchline. We didn't sit where we needed to be.
Yeah.
And there, like, we would do a bit where it's like, you know what, don't say anything for 4 minutes. And then you just sit there and don't stop looking at the person. And then you watch it play out. I remember there's in a waiting room, we were like, Q, this is hysterical. This person doesn't know what to do. They just like, don't know if they need to talk to you. It's like, just freeze and just talk. And he was like doing this kind of thing. And it was so good. And to be able to sit in that, we would have to put another whole challenge in that 4 minutes, so it was weird.
When you watch it, it seems seamless, right? A lot of content these days, especially if it's like vertical, like TikTok, it feels like people are just waking up and turning it on and being like, okay, and it's like a whole skit. Obviously that's not the case. But what were some challenges that you guys faced while filming this? Like for you personally, like throughout this time, was it just like we filmed this and we pitched it to a network and they bought it and then 10 years and it was great?
No,
You're like, yes.
Spot on. What's the question? I will say it did help that we were a big fish in a small pond, right? So we were True TV, we were their show. So we actually went through, in my time, I think there was 4 or 5 different presidents. Like the regime change was crazy. And so there's a lot of with Turner, and everybody was Turner when it started, and like, so it was all these different regimes. And when they came in, it would be more like, okay, it ain't broke, don't fix it.
Right.
What else could we do to help support this thing? And they would put on different shows. They basically converted the whole channel to comedy based on our one show. When it started, we were between 2 reality tow truck shows.
Oh my god!
It was Lizard Lick Towing, us, and then South Beach Tow. And for some reason, it caught fire. Everybody loved it, and we have these fans that are the best in the world, super vocal online, really, die hard, and it was great. So it kind of, they were like, oh, this works way more than these two, so let's get rid of this and let's try to build. So they were building that stuff and being like, just keep doing what you're doing. We get new people that came in, try to help. The first couple seasons, they were a little bit more hands-on. But by the end, it was more like, what do you want to do here? And eventually there'd be like things where we would say, trust us, it's going to work. All right.
You guys are like the owners of True TV at that point. You're like, hey guys, you're new.
They would come back. They were like, yeah, we love you. But they were like, okay, could you explain it why? And we'd explain a little bit better. Like, we don't get. And then there'd be 3 or 4 times where we just call up. He became a character in the show, Simmy Can't Stand Your Bits, Simmy, who was our network guy. And we'd be like, Sim, we're going to do it. Trust us. And if it doesn't work, we won't air it, but it's going to work. And they were like, yeah. So it was kind of.
That's so, it's so unique.
Yeah. You have to have the confidence to do that, though. You have to have the confidence to put your foot down a little bit with something when you really believe in it. Sal, I don't know if you know the tattoos that the guys have. So I made them all get a tattoo, and Sal has a tattoo of Jaden Smith on his thigh. Because of jokes, so we made him get a tattoo. They all lost.
I did see something. I saw him getting a tattoo.
Yeah. So he's got Jaden Smith on one thigh, and then in the movie we made him get it on the other thigh, and updated version. So he has 2 tattoos of Jaden Smith. But we thought of that at the punishment. It was originally going to be a Caesar salad. I'm like, that's really funny. And then we thought about Jaden Smith, and we're like, oh, that's even funnier. And then we were like, oh, it's got to be. And it was like, all right, it's got to be Jaden Smith. And then the network guy was like, oh, no, we'd have to get that cleared. We found a picture. I'm like, oh, this is perfect. They're like, oh, we'd have to get that cleared. We can't do that today. So we're going to have to do Caesar salad. And then I just stopped, and I was, we were talking, and I was like, we were like, this is for life. The funnier choice.
Right.
We're doing this.
Right.
And it was like, no, we're doing that. And if we can't do it today, we just won't do it today. We'll get the clearance and we'll come back. And we had already set up the whole tattoo thing and everything. And now the heat came on. I get the phone call. What are you doing? You can't burn a day. We've paid for everybody to come. I was like, look, there's a park across the street. I said, we have 3 or 4 park challenges. I'll film 2 park challenges today. It's a better choice, blah, blah. Get back and forth, stood our ground.
Yeah.
Worked out, went back, did the Jaden, when it was Jaden, it's one of our most famous things ever.
Wow.
And it led to so many more things, just that one little moment.
Right.
Of just standing your ground. So I would say if you think creatively something, don't be afraid to. The compromise was do something else because they don't want to waste money. So do something else. But,
And you had a plan. You're like, there's parks across the street. We can do this. We already have this written out.
Yeah.
And it helps, like you said, confidence-wise because you have your buddies too. Like 100%. You said, you're surrounding yourself with people.
The funniest guys I know, right?
Right.
So we're all agreeing, so we all know.
Right.
It's
like this is, if we're agreeing.
Yeah. I'm not going to, so it's like.
Compromise this entire thing for for life. Are you kidding me? Caesar salad. And then you have to get another Caesar salad.
Just a crouton.
Yeah, exactly. All right, guys, let's take a quick break from the show to talk about our sponsor, Mastermind Media. I've been shooting with Mastermind for a few years now, and I can truly say that they have covered all of my needs within the digital space. They create logos for me, graphic designs for my journal magic. Obviously, they produce the podcast, and it looks amazing. So I love working with them, and they're offering all of my listeners 15% off. So just shoot them an email and tell them that I sent you and you'll get the discount. All of their information can be found in the show notes below. All right, guys, back to the show. Messing with people.
Yes, there you go. My new special. Ah, there it is. Yeah.
So you transitioned into solo, Joe.
A new form of comedy, new form of entertainment. Stand-up comedy, yeah.
But you've been doing, is it its own beast, stand-up comedy?
Yeah, performing live isn't. I've been performing live forever, but stand-up comedy it was always collaborative. I always had other people on stage. Yeah. So being up there by myself was the biggest transition for me.
So tell me about Messing with People and when you went on your own.
So after I left the show, right, the bills keep coming in. You're trying to figure out your life. I got kids and at that point, a separated wife I needed to take care of, and a house, and all these dogs with my dog charity. Like I had to keep everything going. And
that was kind of your decision. That's what was based on your decision to leave the group?
There's a lot of personal stuff that happened in there, and but life continues. Yeah. Right. So when you leave and now you go, it's like, okay, what am I going to do? So I talked to my team, and they're like, well, my agent was like, you're funny. You should try doing stand up. And I was like, okay. I said, how do I do that? And he's like, well, we'll book you some dates, and you just go and figure out what you want to say. So I launched this thing called Joe Gatto's Night of Comedy. That was my tour when I was on the road, which was me and a couple comics, and I would go. And the first night I went up, I was super nervous. I was like, all right, what am I going to do up here? And I was talking with everybody that I trust, a couple of my friends, Steve Byrne, who's a very funny comic and a co-host of my podcast, Two Cool Moms. And so he was very instrumental in like, look, you'll figure it out. Just get up there and, be yourself. People like listening to you talk. He's like, what do you want to do? And I'm a storyteller. I love telling stories. He's like, so get up there and tell some stories. So I went for like 35 to 40 minutes my first time up, and I came back and he was just like shaking his head at me, and he's like, I've been doing this 25 years. He's like, F you. He's like, you got it. He's like, you got it. It's so easy. Just figure out what you want to say up there. You got it. So I worked it, and eventually I felt like I had a good enough show to get into theaters because so many people were coming out to see me. Instead of working for a weekend in one town, I could go to a bigger venue, work smarter, not harder, and then just hit 3 towns in a weekend and have, a bigger return. And also I was more comfortable on theater stages. I'd never done stand-up stages. They're small. I'm a very physical comedian. Yeah. And when I got on my first stage, I remember it went from, B to A like that, because I was like, I could use my body here. And I started being sillier, hanging out in the moments, and really, really being able to milk what is me, like just weird faces, weird body movements, tucking and rolling if I wanted to, whatever went. So then it became that. And then I finally came with a product that I loved. And I was like, this is great. And then I toured with the whole thing. And when it was over, I was like, I don't want this just to go away. So they're like, we'll film your special. So I filmed at the Paramount in Huntington, New York, where I'm from. I'm a local hometown guy. So it was great to do it there. It's a great venue, and I'm super proud of it.
Yeah.
Now it's out for everybody to see. Yeah.
It came out a couple days ago?
Yeah.
Okay, it's out. It's live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's on YouTube on 800 Pound Gorillas page. And it's called Messing with People. You can just search it and find me. And now I'm back on tour with my brand new hour content called the Let's Get Into It tour. And
the tour is Let's Get Into It.
Yep. And the special is Messing with People.
And
totally different content. Okay. Totally new hour. Yeah. And I just launched that 2 weeks ago.
December 12th and 13th and 14th, you're going to be in California.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
look at you.
I know. A lot of my listeners are LA based, I feel like. So there we go.
It might be a little bit of a trip, but it's worth it.
Yeah. Why? Are they far?
Yeah, I think they are.
Well, it's California.
Oh, no.
No, they weren't too far.
No, they weren't.
One of them is in a place that I didn't know like what it was.
Okay. Visalia, California. Yeah, I don't know.
North?
I'm not sure. I think it's north.
You're like, I'll cross that bridge, literally.
I go to a lot of these towns, which is really fun because of these theaters. I love a small town like Main Street, cup of coffee, walk around, see what it's like, and then just, really get to. I'm not one of those guys that goes to his hotel room and just purchases up, waits for showtime. Yeah. Like I go shopping at the mom and pops on Main Street. I get out there, talk to people. I grab a donut. Like I love that, So it's really like cool to do these towns. And I've actually performed live in all 50 states. That was a bucket list thing for me 2 years ago. Wow. And I got my last date with Fargo, North Dakota. So it was great.
Do you have a favorite state?
I have states.
Or town.
I love a lot of America. I have some towns, some states overall where I have multiple cities that are really good. Like my Ohio fans, my Florida fans, Northeast, up there, Rhode Island, Maine, those kind of things, Boston. So like those kind of areas always do well. But I have to say I'm pretty fortunate because basic cable reached everywhere.
I know.
And then
it's
now
true.
that people have seen I'm doing stand up now, have seen my stand up and want to come out, it's been really, really cool.
So asking for a friend, are you ever like nervous or like how do you balance it all, like, or scared about what comes next? I've been so scared to like stop something, just like quit it and then be like, what's gonna come next, and are the people gonna come, are the likes, the views, whatever, like does that ever scare you, or have you just kind of been like moving on? For
sure. I always had the mindset though, stopping something, if you don't stop something, you're stopping something from starting. So if you keep doing the same old, you can't get something new started. So for a while, like it feels like when you feel like you're done with something, you feel like you've done everything you can in that space, or you're more excited about a new challenge than another. That's always the thing. So a thing that's always hung over my head is like my dream is to be a filmmaker, movie director, screenwriter. Why I moved out here in 2003, chased the dream. I've written scripts. I want to make a movie. Like that's what I want to do. So when Jokers came along, I was like, this is really fun to be able to do this with my friends. It'll get me in the entertainment industry. And then a big part of my life became that. And I never wanted to be in front of the camera. Never. It was never a dream of mine. I like to make people laugh. Then when I got in front of the camera, I was like, oh, wow, you see the impact you have on people. You hear the stories. I found you, I was in the hospital. You helped me deal with this, blah, blah, blah. And that doesn't get lost on you. You're like, I'm entertaining people. I'm making them forget the reality of the world.
Right.
Life sucks. Sometimes you got to suck harder and you got to get out there and do your thing. So I was like, okay, I like that now. So a new thing became awoken in me where I was like, I want to be that for people. I want to be some sort of event or escape or thing. So when I left Jokers, I didn't want to leave that behind because I liked that. Selfishly, it fulfilled something in me.
Yeah.
And selflessly, it was like, okay, if I work this hard, I could help people.
Yeah.
So you get this weird tornado of emotion and feeling and never feel like you could do enough. And that's always the noise, right? It's, I should be doing more. I should be doing more. And, you can't. Like, there's only so much you could do.
Right. What is that in all of us? Or like wanting more of like, okay, like if you look back at you at 20, could you even dream of what you are now?
I've been an accountant in a cubicle, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's crazy.
That's so crazy.
Risk reward's huge, right? You got to. I had to quit my job to do Jokers. I took my 2 weeks vacation working at a baby store called Giggle, where I was selling high-end furniture and baby gear, and I quit that job because I needed to take a 6-month hiatus to film season 1. And my CEO said, "So you're quitting?" And I told her, I was like, "No, I'm just taking a break." And she's like, "Well, you're going to be a TV star. If it doesn't work out, come back and we'll talk about it."
Oh.
So I had to like straight up quit my job. So I dove in and I was like, "Okay, this has got to work."
Yeah.
So
And you guys were getting paid nothing season?
nothing.
No. You're like, we were paying for
Basic
it.
cable, nothing. And we were doing so many episodes, and it was just, we ended up doing 31 episodes a season.
Yeah, I know. There's so many on IMDb. I was like, 300? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Yes, I did 9.5 seasons and it was like over 300 episodes. And that's just that show, right? We had a spinoff. We had
There's
a movie.
so many
We had 2
impact-
shows. There's
yeah.
a movie. There was, so it was, we toured live. Like it was a bunch,
Was it a really big decision when you made it to split off, or did you feel in your heart, you're
course.
like, this is what I need?
No,
No, it was really
huge,
hard.
heavy decision. And you always think about things, But
Yeah.
I will say, it's so funny. Like the biggest thing that people always worry about, and I always make sure to say this, is that we are still friends. Like we're friends in real life. We're not work friends anymore. So people always are like, "Oh my God, I hope they're so." We were friends way before this started,
Right.
and way after. It's like kind of like when you met Tony Soprano in the show. Like he was doing stuff before,
Yeah.
and who knows? Maybe he didn't do stuff after. But it's like that's a huge part. Those guys we're a huge part of each other's lives. Funniest guys I know. We support each other and collab on stuff when we can. So
Yeah. And you would never be doing this tour if you would have stayed there.
Right. I wouldn't be doing this. I wouldn't be writing my kid's book. I wouldn't be.
I know
doing
so
yeah.
much.
Yeah. It's
I
like,
had that written down. Like, how do you?
yeah. Well, the creativity, that was the thing we just talked about. Like when you're able to focus on something different.
Yeah.
Right. So like.
You had to stop something
right,
else.
Exactly. A bottle
let the
popped
energy.
open. I was like, oh my God, all this stuff. I wrote 3 scripts, kid's book. I thought of some other project stuff, some TV stuff. And it was like, oh, this is really. Like, because you're just so focused
A
on
bottle
something.
popped open. So, like, the seed was planted in there, probably. Like, have you always wanted to write a children's book or
That came out of just.
having kids?
I think a big thing of that was recognizing an opportunity to enter a new fun space. So for me, I became a dad, or a real dad 3 years ago, where I started really focusing on my family. But I became a dad, and when I started reading at night, I was like, this is a really fun moment to do, and a fun story happening with my son. My son gives me lots of material. In my new tour, my daughter and son are all over it, which I never actually talked about really on the show because they didn't really fit that.
Yeah.
And now it's like, oh, there's so much fun to entertain here.
So fun.
And, so when I had a fun story, I was like, oh, this would be pretty cool to have my son have a kid's book.
Yeah.
And then I just went down that path and we did it. I met Luke Flowers, who's the guy who illustrated my book, Where's Barry? And he did a great job. It came to life. I saw my son as a cartoon. He made one of my dogs. And I was like, oh my God, this is so fun.
Yeah.
And I was like, it unlocked something really cool. Like I want to do this. This is cool. So
It takes a lot of drive to do a lot of the things that you're doing.
For sure.
Do you think you're born with drive, or that you...
maybe it's Maybelline. Do
Do you think people are born with drive?
I think people are born with ambition and it needs to be watered. I think if something doesn't happen, there's an instant gratification thing for people for sure. Like, if something doesn't come to you right away, it's like, oh, but to have the determination, like we always laughed how we were an 18-year overnight success. We came out of nowhere and we took the world by storm.
Yeah.
But we were trying it for 18 years before. Nothing. 3 failed pilots. Nothing was happening. We're doing 50-person, black box theaters in New York. Like it was nothing. So it just comes out of nowhere. And I really think that is just, you got to give time to things, If you look at the stories of when people become famous, and you just did yourself a favor and Googled that,
Right.
not many child actors continue in this life.
Right.
Or there's only a couple that you can name, famously Bieber or whatever, that just started like wildfire young and just went. Think about all the people in entertainment and then look at the start dates for those people as an average. I bet you it's not 20.
That's like, the definition of this show is like getting, the ground up stories of where it came from, because that's the first thing I do on IMDb. When someone books a role that I auditioned for, I just go straight to their first thing, their first extra roll or whatever on there, and it's like 2012, and I'm like, okay, my first was 2017. Okay, they've been kind of pursuing this longer.
Yeah.
And for them to even book that thing means they probably started pursuing it years before that.
Yeah.
So it's helpful too.
For sure. But do you realize comparison serves you no benefit?
Well, I'm struggling. I'm 29.
Okay, well, stop that, because comparison
In a TikTok world.
I know, and I know the dances, but listen, I don't want you to go down the path of comparison, because you go comparison, it's insane. You'll never win that fight, but you'll always look at yourself at a lesser light, because you'll always compare yourself to someone better.
Yeah.
No one compares himself to someone in a worse situation. Everybody looks at who they want to be, not who they don't want to be. So if you're sitting there comparison yourself, you want to do yourself a favor, compare yourself to people that you're beating.
Right.
And what are you doing right?
Yeah.
Instead of what am I doing wrong, and you'll get better faster. That's just my personal opinion.
But I feel like in order to do that, I mean, I do a lot of work personally on this, right? Therapy, shit like that, because the only way for me to continue pursuing my endeavors is if I don't compare myself to people. So when I feel myself going down that rabbit hole, I will stop myself because I'm like, nope, I literally won't take action that day on sending a pitch email or something, because I'll get so in my head about it. But the only way for me at this point, and I'm kind of in a little struggle right now where I think I need to be off Instagram for a couple months.
A detox?
A detox, if you will.
Okay. This is what I'll say to you.
Tell me.
You have to look at what you're doing on Instagram that makes you want to stop it, instead of sharing parts of your life that you like and inspiring other people, which it's a great tool to do. So why are you making Instagram the enemy? And that's what you need to address. It's not the app. It's what you're doing on it.
I love that.
It is. It's true. Yeah. I mean, I do that all the time. Everybody's New Year's resolution is always like, I'm going to use social media less. And I always say, use social media better. It's a way to connect with strangers, inspire people.
Yeah.
It does so good. Think about all the quotes, dumb things you see, and it just gives you a little thing.
Yeah.
This morning, I was on TikTok Live, right, getting ready, and I just always scroll through and pop in people's lives, right? And I found this super positive woman. She was DJing, laughing, singing, and she started my day off better than nothing. I never would have found her if I hadn't opened up TikTok. And I just wrote to her and I said, hey, this is unbelievable. She saw who I was. It was like, oh my God, you're in my chat. And I said, yeah, and I found you just for no reason, and my day has been fantastic.
Wow.
Because a stranger was doing something fun on Instagram, you know, on TikTok.
And your mindset around it was
100%.
positive.
I'm a positive person too. I'm pretty positive. So I think there is a little bit of that. It's always nice to have positive people in your life that you can call and give you some advice. So I think that's always important.
I'll call you, Joe.
You got it. That's it. We're friends now. That's it. It goes from podcast guest.
Sleep,
I'm like, Remo, sorry, we got to read Where's Barry.
I'm like, Joe, I saw this chick on Instagram.
she got the role. I didn't.
Yeah. No, I do my best to not compare, but sometimes it's inevitable.
Listen, you're human. It's gonna happen. But the more aware you are of it, the easier it is. It's like anything. The more aware you are of your indicators that you're going that way, like you just said, you're like, I'll see I'm doing that and I won't open Instagram. It's like, just open Instagram, just don't look at the stuff that's making you feel that way.
Right. Or have a different mindset about it. Be like, oh, that's really cool. Now I feel inspired.
100%.
But there's just the rabbit hole too of rolling, and it's been 30 minutes, you know?
Yeah. You didn't expect it to get this deep, did you?
No, I did. I love it.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, we're talking about advice right now. What advice would you give to a young comedian or actor who is pursuing this?
The number one thing I say to everybody, I get the question all the time, is I want to start comedy. Start.
Right.
You have to start. You're either doing comedy or not. There's no starting it, right? You want to get into the game, get off the bench and start. Like you said, it's very easy to do it, get on your own or whatever. The other thing I will say is try to find people to get advice from or mentor that you respect and think are good, or reach out to people,
DM Joe.
Yeah, go ahead. I help out all the time. I get them all the time.
I'm sure you do. You seem like that type of guy.
Yeah. I mean, that's another reason why we started our podcast. It's called Two Cool Moms. So me and Steve talk, and then the second half we solve fam submitted dilemmas, because people roll right in and, hey, could you help us? Because I've always been that in my life with all my friends. Steve has always been that way. Steve has been that for me. I've been that for Steve.
Yeah.
So it's just a very cool thing that happened. And we're both comedians, so it's funny. The advice, it's either good or bad, but it's there and it's fun to listen to. But it's a good piece to be able to look. I'm 48 at this point. I've been through a lot inside the industry, inside life, ups and downs. So why not just help people figure out what they need? Meet and greets after my shows are like therapy sessions for a lot of people. Yeah. They just come in, cry, hug me, and leave. All right, see you later. Thanks for coming. Yeah, so it's really, I was like, is the show that bad?
Yeah.
But the meet and greets of my show, I'll have venue owners after be like just sitting there, and they're just sitting there like looking at me, and they're like, it's crazy how like people just latch to you. I'm like, True TV played mostly in hospitals, hotel rooms, and prisons.
Wow.
And that's where people found us. My car, I got a flat last time I was here. The guy comes at 12:30 in the morning. I'm staying over at the Hyatt, right? He comes over, gets out, tatted up dude. He sees me, he goes, Joe. I go, hey man. He goes, oh my God. He gives me a hug. I'm like, hey man, how are you? He goes, dude, I just got out of prison 5 months ago. He's like, you got me through it. Thanks, man. I'm like,
no.
I'm like, how we doing? He's like, great, man. I got this job. Blah blah blah. I was like, awesome. And
oh my God.
And what a weird thing for him to get out of his car.
I know.
At 12:30, and here's
not
Joe.
In prison.
Not in prison. Joe in Practical Jokers needs help with a flat.
Wow.
So it's really interesting, and that stuff's never lost on me.
Yeah.
So.
That definitely feels like enough to keep someone going.
100%. You're there during, hospitals are the biggest thing, right? Nobody's in the hospital for a good reason.
No. Yeah.
Yeah, maybe you're having a baby, like you see that,
Right.
but besides that, you're not really there for.
Impractical Jokers was on 24/7 as well.
100%. Marathoned it. They just marathoned
Well,
it.
like you said, it was like one of the only shows
It
on
was
there
literally,
too.
Yeah. The only.
Did you get residuals?
Basic cable.
Okay.
No.
Got it. Copy.
Yeah. Movie helped us a little bit with that, but not much.
Okay.
At all,
I was curious because whenever again, it's on cable and it was just always. And so I was thinking, I was like, I wonder.
Yeah. What is interesting because it falls into a reality category, but it's such a prepared for show.
Yeah.
It's not like we don't put a camera up and say, go guys. Like there's so much.
So produced.
Writing, producing, all the things that go into it. The moments are real. The people don't know us, but everything around it. Like we made a zombie apocalypse for Sal. And we found a place and we created basically a short film where he has to survive a zombie apocalypse. He went into a sewer. We found a spot underneath a building and we locked up his nieces and he had to save his nieces by going. And we had 100 actors dressed in full zombie makeup chasing him as he's screaming and trying to hit them with bats. It was phenomenal.
Yeah.
And it was like, okay, so you're telling me this is just you put the camera on and go? It's not. Like,
right.
So that was a little weird thing you had to get used to.
You talked about, if you want to start doing comedy, you have to just get out there and start doing it. And I feel like this word failure is thrown around so many times, right? Like get out there and start failing. Yes. But.
Or don't fail.
Right. Or
you don't know. Like don't go.
Yeah.
Just stop being a jerk. Just go do it.
Right.
Like you might be fantastic at it.
The questions I get in my DMs, like, how did you book that show? Right? How did you do it? And it's like, there's also a business side of this, right? Of the aspect of like, reaching out to people or sending pitch emails to agents and managers. Like, is that something that you had to do as well?
Yeah. And I do now.
And you do now.
Yeah. So if there's something I want to get involved in or a company I like I'm getting to, like I know that, like I said, I have scripts and stuff I want to do, and I know there's companies I want to meet with. After here, I'm leaving to meet with one of my favorite companies on earth, and it's like that's because I said, hey, I want to meet with them. Like that stuff happened. You have to make stuff happen for yourself. Well, and look, it's not lost on me. I'm in a different position. You can't be like Bob, being like, hey, I want to meet with
Right.
So, but it all does really start by. It all really just always comes back to talking to strangers, which I think you have to deprogram yourself, right? Everybody, one of the biggest questions I always get: how do I make friends as an adult? People get lonely later in life. They don't have kids, or they have kids. They don't have school to help them make friends, whatever. And people ask that, and I said, you have to talk to strangers. Every best friend starts as a stranger. Like you didn't know you need to do that. And we're programmed not to talk to strangers.
Yes.
So it's like, now look, I'm not saying go find a white van and jump in it, disclaimer. But you know what I mean? Like you have to go talk to somebody. And one of the biggest things, I'm an amateur photographer. I like photography. And I would see somebody with a camera and I would go up to them and be like, oh, what is that? And learn about it from them. They would show me some photos and you'd meet people. And some of my really good friends are people that I just met in a coffee shop before any of this.
That's so true. And we're just on our phones or in a line at a coffee shop. I try to like not be on my phone, just have my head up. You never know who you're going to make eye contact, smile with.
Airplanes.
Airplanes. Do you talk to the people next to you?
Oh, no. I'm not an animal.
Okay.
Airports. I should say airports. Yeah. Don't talk to the people you sit next to. I don't want that on me.
What about when you're landing? Would you make...
I hold people's hands on purpose just to make it weird. I go, hold me.
Did you guys ever have an episode on like a plane?
I had the best idea to do that. We wanted to get a plane. We couldn't get a real plane company to approve it. The problem is we did get one big company to approve it, but then we had to get the airport to approve it, and the airport didn't.
Oh shit!
But we did get one in JFK where they made me claim it was a very tough punishment where I had to take other people's bags off the thing and pretend they were mine. So it came down the thing, and I had to take people's bags off and walk away.
Yeah.
And people were like, whoa, and that was really tough. And then they made me pick up my Joe, your luggage is coming, and it was an adult blow-up doll that came down, and I had to pick it up and keep yelling, "This is mine! This is mine!" And I left it with it on my shoulders like a piggyback. It was so stupid, but that was cool that we got there. But we had some really great things because on planes, I'm at my best. I make it so fun and awkward for anybody I fly with. Like, I'll struggle too long to put something in the overhead,
You by yourself, Joe.
Just make myself, and I'll have my belly on the person's face. I'm like, sorry. I use voices all the time on planes.
I really hope that
we have to fly somewhere. Next time you're flying to New York, so I'll make sure we time it.
Exactly. This is fun. Okay, this is my fun and lighthearted questions for Joe.
Is that the title?
Yeah. This was going to be my end. Yeah, my last 10 minutes. Perfect. Okay. So if you weren't a comedian, do you think you would be an accountant?
Oh, no.
So what do you think you would be doing if you weren't?
Sales.
Okay.
I fell into sales a little bit later after that. I ended up with sales. I love sales. I worked at Nordstrom at the Grove here.
No, you didn't.
Yeah, I did from 2003 to 2004. And then I opened up HD Buttercup. It's that furniture store down in Culver City. I opened that with them. And I was their first personal shopper there. So, yeah, I sold furniture and stuff. I really liked it.
How many places have you worked at?
How many? I've had 3 separate careers, really.
Yeah.
I was a consultant when I left. I knew I didn't want to be an accountant. I became a consultant. And I worked for Accenture Consulting, a big consulting firm, for 5 years. Then I left that and I went to chase the dream in LA and ended up working at Nordstrom and got into sales. And then I worked at that company, Giggle.
I feel like you've had a lot of lives.
Here I have. I'm a cat.
Because I'm like, Party City was 4 years.
Yeah. Party City. I started at 16, Party City. Yeah.
We have 5 years.
Yeah. I'm old.
Wow. But no, not even that. Like, just think about, people get so down on themselves, about, well, what do I do next? And I don't know what to do. And I'm supposed to be here now. And it's like, no, you're supposed to be at the exact job that you're at right now. Plant the seeds for the other things you want to pursue. And it'll happen eventually.
If you're doing the work, it'll happen.
If you're doing the work.
You can't just complain.
No.
I should be this.
I should be this.
Yeah, agree.
Yeah.
What are you doing about it to make you get there?
I have a friend that says that all the time. That should be me. And I'm like, sure, if you want to pursue it.
Yeah.
And like,
if you could answer the question, how?
Yeah.
Then yeah, sure, that should be you. How is that you?
How can I? Yeah. How can I do this? I think it's just taking action on, like, I love what you said, that even now you will email a company and be like, hey, I'd love to meet, like, you. And I think another thing people don't understand is when you, quote, make it, that all of a sudden you have this team behind you and they're doing all this. No, you, Joe, me, for anything I'm doing, I have to tell people how to help me.
Yeah.
If I need help. Like, okay, here's we're always the one pushing
100%.
the tire forward or whatever.
That's it. Yeah, because they have other clients that are doing different things for them and stuff.
Yeah.
We didn't have an agent until we got on TV. We did it all by ourselves. We didn't have a manager till our, I think, first or second season.
The amount of
like
work.
those things. Yeah, you got to put the work in.
You got to put the work in. What's one thing most people don't know about you, but you think they'd be surprised to learn?
I mean, that's hard because I'm very open book. On TV, I was myself.
This is a
I wasn't a character.
Question. Welcome to Ground Up.
There it is, man. Oh, you hit me with the hard hits here at the end. I thought I was coasting through. Something people don't know about me, they'd be surprised to know. I could use nunchucks.
What?
I could use nunchucks.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like Michelangelo the Turtle. Yeah.
You haven't used that in something?
I used it on one episode.
You should use it on your new...
I did on one episode, but it was like a very brief moment where they were we were working in a prop store and they were there and I told Sal, I could use these. And he goes, go ahead. And I did. And he was like, what? How do you know how to use them? Yeah. So.
What's your zodiac sign?
Gemini.
Okay.
Yeah.
Are you very Gemini? Do you identify?
I don't know much about the zodiac, but I've been told that I have 2 very distinct personalities, the loud, bold, fun one, and then the serious, caring kind of thing. So I've heard I've had those 2 type of modes, which is hard because people, when I want to be serious, it's hard. People are like, are you being serious? Or are you messing with me? Like my whole life now, forever, is going to be, are you messing with me? Are you bull?
Right. But I feel like even right now, you're being semi-serious.
I'm pretty genuine, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I try. You think I was going to just come in here and be like, zoinkies? Spilling the coffee, like, whoa.
Hey.
Could you imagine 1 hour of me being like, is this thing on?
Just pulling things out of your pockets.
Like, oh, did you order a banana?
Pouring the drink. Oh my God. Okay.
I got on this because I reached out to you.
I know.
I saw what you were doing. I loved it. And I was like, this is a cool one. I'd like to be here. I'm going to be in town. So you talk about reaching out.
I know.
Why didn't you invite me?
How
about that?
I was nervous.
Oh, okay.
I was thinking about it.
Or you don't lie.
No, but I know when I saw that, I was like, oh, hello. But I think that's such, a great example. Like, I feel like this episode and like the whole point of my podcast obviously is to inspire. And I feel like your story in general and what you continue to do is so inspiring because you keep creating traction for yourself and momentum.
Yeah.
Do you ever have downtime? Like, what do you enjoy doing to take care of yourself?
Family, spend time with the kids. I a big thing was like, is you talk a lot on the other podcast where I talk about parenting a lot and stuff. It's really about balance and focus, and how balance is a myth. I don't believe in balance. I think it's impossible, and we put ourselves so much pressure. I think what we have is focus. What are you going to focus on in this moment? And that's a lesson I had to learn the hard way. It's like, be present if you're there. Like my son says to me now, he's like, Dad, can we play? I was like, I could look at the clock and be like, I'll find this 5 minutes elsewhere. Yes, we could play.
Yeah.
So you figure out the things that are important. So I would say my downtime for when I'm by myself is I'm writing. I love to write. So I'm just either writing or whatever. I'm playing video games. I'm doing Legos or I'm watching movies. That's pretty much really that's all my time.
Yeah. Joe, can you tell us where we can find you? Tell us where your specials are, and you're going to be on tour starting when? And name every state that you're
I'll pray a lot. So I'm doing 30 dates till the end of the year this year, and then we just announced through March, I think it was. So for tickets and all things, my tour, everything, it's joegattoofficial.com. And then I'm most active on Instagram at Joe_Gatto. And most importantly, please watch my comedy special, Messing with People.
People.
That's on YouTube. You could search for that. That's
just dropped. So you're hearing it here.
First-ish.
First-ish.
First-ish,
I was trying to think of a word.
It's first-ish. When in doubt, make up a word.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Joe, for being here, taking the time.
I want to tell you that I'm proud of you. I think this is awesome what you give the world. I saw this and it inspired me. So thank you for that. It's really important what you do. And if you're wondering what you need to do, you need to do a lot more of this because this is great.
Oh, thank you so much. That means the world to me. I really appreciate it.
Yeah.
Thanks.
You got
Thanks,
it.
Joe.
All right.
Everything's in the show notes about Joe.